The best way to know life is to love many things. Episode 2. You made it back. Yay! Hi everyone. Welcome to Ariadne's Quotes of Wisdom. Vincent van Gogh. He's one of my favorite artists of all time. I've actually been watching a TV series on National Geographic. The very first season was on Einstein. It's called Genius. The second season, which just started a couple of weeks ago, they chose an artist this time. And when they had said that they were going to choose an artist, I was really hoping that they would cover Van Gogh, but unfortunately they are covering Picasso, which, of course, in his own right, is quite a genius himself. But I was really, really hoping for Vincent van Gogh, as he is one of my favorite artists. And of course, Vincent van Gogh is most famous, especially for his painting, which is most circulated, The Starry Night. And Vincent van Gogh is a very, very troubled artist. He wound up committing suicide at age 37, shot himself. He had the infamous incident with the razor blade where he cut off his ear. He was sent to an asylum for quite some time, which was where he actually painted the famous Starry Night. So it is quite ironic that he actually writes a quote speaking about the best way to know life is to love many things. For somebody who is so troubled and battled so much with mental health issues, to speak about loving life and knowing life and loving so many things, you would think that he would not have battled so much with so many mental health issues. But there is always that fine line between genius and madness. And I definitely think he was one of those people who kind of crossed that line. I know myself as somebody who is a musician and an artist and somebody who's creative. I definitely am one of those people who I feel walks that line. I definitely always feel very misunderstood. I definitely feel somebody who, always teeters on that brink of, so passionate about so many things that it can really drive you to that edge of insanity. Back when I was in graduate school, and I was struggling with one of my instructors, and we weren't getting along, we weren't understanding each other. He was actually my private instructor for clarinet, and that is one of the most important relationships, really, when you're studying music, because they're the ones who are guiding you for your main instrument that you're studying. So that is a very difficult relationship to not be going smoothly. So that was a very difficult relationship for me to not be able to have going my way and to be struggling with. So I was talking to one of my friends that I was in college with and, really kind of venting to her about, I didn't understand why we weren't getting along, and he kind of kept repeating the same phrase to me over and over, and I wasn't understanding what he was trying to get across to me, and I wasn't able to make the corrections that he was trying to make to me. And this friend of mine, who we had a very tumultuous relationship as friends, and she and I always kind of butted heads a lot. And she was kind of a very aggressive kind of a person, and she kind of always said what was on her mind, kind of had no filter. And I don't always take very well to that kind of a person. I'm a very sensitive person, and I don't always take criticism very well. So she said to me as she was looking around my apartment, and she saw hanging on the walls my artwork that I had done, and she saw that I had my karate belts hanging up, and she saw that I played a lot of computer games, and she saw that I wrote a lot, and she said to me, well, you know what your problem is? You spend more time doing so many other activities and so many other hobbies. You're the jack of all trades and master of none. And I was very, very hurt by that phrase and that saying that she said to me at that point. And she said, you need to spend more time in the practice room. You're just not buckling down. You're here to get your master's degree. You really should be so much more focused on music. So I was really taken aback by what she said and thought that maybe I was not, working as hard as everybody else. I have really actually come to take that phrase as a compliment the longer I have lived. And I have taken that phrase actually as something that I am proud of. I have continued to do all of those things. And I've not always necessarily kept up with everything. I did go on to get my black belt in karate. I have not always kept up with it. I've not been able to keep up with it just because of my lifestyle. But it is always in my heart. I do keep up with a lot of different things. Actually, as you can see, back there is a painting that I painted not too long ago. I'm actually going to take you back here to have a little bit of a closer look, because this particular painting is actually kind of pertinent to our conversation. Because if you get a little bit of a closer look, you can kind of see a little bit of an homage to a certain someone right here within that skyline. That certain someone is Van Gogh. And if you look really, really closely, if I can kind of put this correctly, you can see that there's actually a musical staff within that. And I have 2 notes that are in the middle of that. And those notes are written in the staff as C's. So C, C, which is actually my daughter's nickname, Cece. So I actually made that painting a couple of years ago for a recital that I was giving that I entitled Journey Through the Woods. And I made all of the pieces that I did for that recital, I kind of themed them around woods, forest, trees, things like that. And I painted that painting that I had. It was a multimedia experience. I actually dressed the part. I had a dress on that kind of went along with the theme and had a little headdress on, and it was a very multimedia experience, and I thought it was very unique, and I really had a lot of fun planning it. So I kind of actually have learned to incorporate all of my talents into my art and my craft. And oddly enough, ironically enough, the girl who actually said that statement to me back in college, lo and behold, guess who's not a musician anymore? Guess who went back to school to study law? She did. Guess who is still practicing music? I am. I may not be the first chair in the New York Philharmonic, but I'm making a living doing what I'm doing. I'm performing. I'm teaching. I'm making a difference in the world. My students and I have a great rapport with each other. I'm very, very happy doing what I do. And the reason that I chose this particular quote to start with is that it actually happens to be, I'm going to turn this around here again, we're exploring today, it is the very first quote in my very first quote book. Just happened to come up. I know this is kind of a backwards image probably, but it is the very first quote in my quote book, my very first quote book, number 1. I number all of my quotes in all my collections of quotes. So I just started with number 1. I happened to pick number 1. And the funny thing is that with Van Gogh being on my mind because of this series, Genius, I had a little thought the other day about his work. And I am a very kind of spiritual person, kind of go into what a lot of people call kind of labeled woo-woo stuff. So forgive me if you don't go down that esoteric, eccentric way. But I kind of had a really random thought the other day that all the swirls and the particular little patterns of lines that are very classic of Van Gogh's style, I kind of had the thought that maybe he is one of these people who is clairvoyant. And when you think of clairvoyant people, you kind of just, group everybody into clairvoyant, psychic kind of people, but anybody who is clairvoyant, there's 4 different types. There's clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudient, and I'm missing one. Kind of drawing a blank right now. But I wonder if he actually saw energy, and that was what he was painting, because all of his lines a lot of times flow to one particular area, one particular direction, as if that energy is just bursting around certain things. And everything has vibrations, everything has energy. Even inanimate objects still have frequencies and vibrations and energy. It's all kind of one and the same thing. And everything in the universe has energy. So I'm wondering, if that is part of his psychotic episodes that they talk about. Maybe he was so overwhelmed by some of his energy readings that he got. And I speak of that because I'm not clairvoyant. I'm more of a clairsentient kind of person, where I just kind of have this knowing feeling that I read people's energy, and I just know certain things without being able to explain how I know these things. But it is still all about this feeling of energy that I get from people. So it really makes me wonder if, we didn't know as much as we know now about psychology as we did, we don't know back then as much as we do now, because he didn't really have any kind of psychological label. They just kept talking about psychotic. If you read anything on him, any of the basic information, I didn't go too super deep, but if you look at any of the information on him, it's really about psychotic episodes and, that he was just in an asylum. But it really makes me wonder, if that was some of what he was experiencing, and that was what he was trying to get across in his paintings, was just this incredible, overwhelming energy that he saw, and that was what he was painting. And if that was just so overwhelming to his senses, and he was over sensory stimulated. My daughter is on the autistic spectrum, and that is something, children with autism, she's on the higher end, she's very high functioning, she has Asperger's, but, children with autism, they have such high sensory input. If he had all this extra sensory input and then had this extra sensory perception where he was seeing so vibrantly, and that was what he was painting, that could really drive somebody absolutely mad. I mean, it really could. Just this constant overstimulation in the world. I just couldn't even imagine. So it really is food for thought. Signing off for today, and I hope you will rejoin us for more episodes. Good night.